Ladies and gentlemen, it is my distinct pleasure to introduce to you the most underrated but tremendous tag team of all time. They are former NWA World Tag Team Champions. They are former WWF Tag Team Champions, and they are the current Tag Team Champions of the universe who have signed legend contracts with the WWE. You can buy their merchandise on HotTopic.com, on WWEShop.com, and on their exclusive Pro Wrestling Tees shop. Hailing from way up in ya, they are Moss and Thrasher, the Headbangers.
And they are
stuff like that.
And I am Simon Says, your host, and I drink my own pee. Bam! I nailed all of it this time.
You nailed all of it. If only I hit record last time. I'm still laughing. I'm still laughing that we went for 5 minutes and record wasn't hit.
This is take 2. So I sound like a freaking genius with everything I botched earlier.
So anyway, Simon, what did you want to ask me about balls?
Knowing
he wants to know how to fit them both in his mouth at the same time. That's what he wants to know.
Yeah, Glenn, can you tell us how you do it?
What, the ball gag?
Yeah. So obviously, I know the difference between football and basketball.
Now you do.
And obviously, you were talking off air about a kicker for the Kansas City Chiefs who may have put his foot in his mouth at a commencement ceremony. Chaz, I am so eager to hear this commencement speech.
So just to start it off, we started this and I forgot to hit record, so we had to start all over. So we're kind of laughing and replaying everything I just read. So those of you out there who didn't hear it or know about it, Harrison.
Now, I will say it's not going to be any less shocking because the stuff you read is flabbergasting.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be interesting, and I'm definitely interested now that you have a few minutes to think about it. Hey, Gina, now that you have a few minutes to think about it, to hear exactly what your opinions are. So, for those of you that don't know, Harrison Butkers is the place kicker for the Kansas City Chiefs. He did the commencement speech at Benedictine College in Atkinson, Kansas on Saturday, May 11th. So I actually printed out the transcript of what he said, but I kind of deleted some stuff out. Wanted to focus on these 2 parts of his speech for us to discuss. So let me start by this. Now, what I'm reading is actually transcript and quoted. It is safe to say that over the past few years, I have gained quite the reputation for speaking my mind. I never envisioned myself nor wanted to have this sort of a platform, but God has given it to me. So I have no other choice but to embrace it and preach more hard truths by accepting your lane and staying in it. For the ladies present today, congratulations on an amazing accomplishment. You should be proud of all you have achieved to this point in your young lives. I want to speak directly to you briefly because I think it is you, the women. I doubt any women are actually watching this, but let me start this part over. I think it is you, the women, who have had the most diabolical lies told to you. How many of you are sitting here now to cross this stage and are thinking about all the promotions and titles you are going to get in your career? Some of you may go on to lead successful careers in the world, but I would venture to guess that the majority of you are most excited about your marriage and the children you will bring into this world. I can tell you that my beautiful wife, Isabel, would be the first to say that her life truly started when she began living her vocation as a wife and as a mother. I am on the stage today and able to be the man I am because I have a wife who leans into her vocation. I'm beyond blessed with the many talents God has given me, but it cannot be overstated that all of my success is made possible because a girl I met in band class in middle school would convert to the faith, become my wife, and embrace one of the most important titles of all, homemaker.
Jesus.
She is a primary educator to our children. She is the one who ensures I never let football or my business become a distraction from that of a husband and father. She is the person that knows me best at my core, and it's through our marriage that, Lord willing, we will both attain salvation. I say all of this to you because I have seen it firsthand how much happier someone can be when they disregard the outside noise and move closer and closer to God's will in their life. Isabel's dream of having a career might not have come true, but if you asked her today if she has any regrets on her decision, she would laugh out loud without hesitation and say, heck no.
Wow.
Proceed.
Like, I can imagine him saying, if you ask her right now if she has any regrets, she would say, heck no. Right, Isabel?
Well, my take is this. Here's my take on it. If you look at the average, from statistics that I've seen, the average the average home brings in, say, $95,000 a year. That's an average. But the cost of living is like $98,000 a year. So it's the way things evolve. Like, yeah, back in my day, like when we were kids, like my mom didn't work, like my grandma didn't work, but households almost need two incomes now to survive. If you're making millions and millions and millions of dollars kicking a fucking football, yeah, you can get away with having your wife sit home and be Susie fucking home.
Yep.
That's
100%.
It's the reality of it. So to go out here and tell all these women that, especially with the whole women's everything equal and all that bullshit that's been going on for the last 5 or 6 years, I don't want to dive deep into that. But I'm just saying, with all of that going on, how the hell can you do that on a college commencement speech? Sit here and tell women, fuck your degree you just worked your ass off for. Go home, be pregnant, barefoot and pregnant in the kitchen.
Yeah,
Because
it's
it was in
2024.
Kansas.
It's 2024, dude. And not only is his take bad, but like the presumptuousness of assuming that's how all these girls should feel.
Right.
It's crazy. Yeah. I would have loved to see the reaction, the live reaction of the crowd when he was saying it.
Well, supposedly at the bottom of the thing, I deleted it off. It said there was like 18 seconds of applauding during parts of his speech, of parts of this bullshit that he was spewing out. And I guess because he's at a Catholic church, that's why he got away. I don't know.
Maybe.
But all the women there, they obviously just, they have aspirations to go out and have some sort of career. I don't know. His thing about most excited about your marriage, I think if you just got done graduating college, I don't know. Maybe it's just me, but I don't think you're focused on wanting to go and get married and have kids right then in that moment. You're, okay, what's next in my life? Because now I have this degree. What do I do with it?
Right. Yeah, I agree.
You just put in years of work at school, and now it's like, hooray, let me rip up this degree and go get myself pregnant.
And continue to pay for it for the next teen years. So
right.
I'm not going to try to get a job to pay it back. I'm just going to go,
It was funny. Speaking of having to pay it back for up 10 years, I was at physical therapy today, and one of the therapists in there was talking about how he wants to go and maybe become a massage therapist as like maybe a side gig. But he was saying how that's a 2-year program. He said, I can go give, he goes, I do massages in here all the time. He goes, but I have to, he goes, I could take the test and pass it. He goes, but you have to go through school for 2 years to be able to get it. He goes, while other people can go get a certificate and be just a massage, do massages. But then he was talking about what Glenn just said about paying it back for years. So he went to graduate school for 2.5 years because he went to FAU right here in South Florida. And then he went St. Augustine, some other kind of college to get his PT degree. He said it was over $100,000 he's got to pay back now. Just for the physical therapy part. So, yeah. So you spend all these years getting educated, and now you got to spend all these years paying it back. Don't worry about it. You just sit barefoot and pregnant in the kitchen.
Yeah. Yeah. Let someone else take care of it.
Yeah. So then he goes on. Then he goes on. And again, I kind of cut parts of it out. To the gentleman here today, part of what plagues our society is this lie that has been told to you that men are not necessary in the home or in our communities. As men, we set the tone of the culture, and when that is absent, disorder, dysfunction, and chaos set in. This absence of men in the home is what plays a large role in the violence we see all around the nation. Our countries do not have nearly the same absentee. Oh, other countries do not have nearly the same absentee father rates as we find here in the U.S., and a correlation could be made in their drastically lower violence rates as well. Be unapologetic in your masculinity, fighting against the cultural emasculation of men. Do hard things. Never settle for what is easy. You might have a talent that you don't necessarily enjoy, but if it glorifies God, maybe you should lean into that over something that you might think suits you better. I speak from experience as an introvert who now finds myself as an amateur public speaker and an entrepreneur, something I never thought I'd be when I received my industrial engineering degree.
He should never speak again.
Dude, you're being paid millions of dollars to kick a fucking football. What kind of, I mean, I don't know. It just blows. And I didn't read the rest of it because it literally is just blowing me away.
What a wacko.
Yeah. Oh, wait.
I wonder what kind of I wonder the feedback that he got after that. I wonder if the president of the college went up and went, "Hey man, that was a great job, great speech, thank you."
Supposedly, other parts I saw that I deleted, he was putting the president over, and supposedly the president was happy about this. Here he goes. What you must remember is that life is about doing the small things well, setting yourself up for success, and surrounding yourself with people who continually push you to be the best version of you. I agree with that. I say this all the time, that iron sharpens iron. It's a great reminder that those closest to us should be making us better. If you are dating someone who doesn't even share your faith, how do you expect that person to help you become a saint? If your friend group is filled with people who only think about what you're doing next weekend and are not willing to have those difficult conversations, how can they sharpen you?
I'm speechless.
I wonder if it's cold. I wonder if it's cold underneath that rock he grew up under.
Yeah, and then it was fun because I watched a little bit of a YouTube thing on it, and the NFL came right off the bat, and they're like, so his views are his own views, or not the views of the NFL. The NFL continues to build and grow and whatever it is, and he has his own views. And then I saw a thing where what's his name? Who's the coach name? Andy
Reid.
Yeah, Andy Reid basically came out and he was like, "Hey, he's our kicker. He's our guy. We support him." I didn't support any of this BS.
That's probably because Andy Reid had no idea what he said.
Andy Reid was too busy doing Allstate commercials or State Farm commercials with.
So that reminds me, Simon, you might know this guy. I don't know the guy's last name, but I see him all the time on TikTok. Charlie something. He always goes to these college campuses and he debates college students.
And lets them put their own foot in their mouth. Yeah.
Yeah. It's Charlie something, right?
Yes.
I forget what his name is. But he brings up so many good and bad points in his speeches and stuff like that. And he actually said about college kids, he goes, how many of you college kids think that you're going to go and you're going to use your degree and get a job? So there's I think he said it was like a 68 percentile will never use their college degree. So
Charlie Kirk.
Yes. Exactly what I'm talking about. And he made some really good points. He's like, he goes, college is nothing but a scam. He goes, it's a scam to make money for, the institutions and stuff like that. How many college students out there today take bullshit classes and pay obscene amount of money because it's part of their requirements? Has nothing to do with their degrees, just part of their requirements. He says a lot of good stuff. I've listened to a lot of his stuff, and he makes really valid points.
Yeah, it's crazy. Like how much the wool has been pulled over people's eyes, Yeah.
Well, I mean, there's a couple of things here with what Glenn just said. I'm trying to figure out how that ties back into Harrison Butkers, but at the same time,
he's out of college, and he's pretty much telling the females that, hey, your college degree isn't going to do you any good because you're going to be home barefoot and pregnant. So I was using that to go off to what he said about, 60-some% of college students never even use their degree.
Well, that's probably a fact because I know lots of people that went to college for a degree and they're not even they're not using it. And then I can speak about Tyler. He's in college right now and he's taking like some bullshit classes where he has to take like an English class. It's like, why are we still taking English classes?
Nothing to do with his degree.
He's got to take like he just finished his second year. And this semester was the first time he took a class that had anything to do with his degree. So the first year and a half was just prereq class. And I'm like, why are you taking it? He's like, Dad, it's prereq. He goes, we got to take it. I'm like, but for like, I just don't understand. Like, you should be able to go to college. Like, legit, going off of what you just said, legit, these kids could probably get their degrees in 2 years because that's all they're giving them is 2 years of what their actually degree is.
Yeah, the general studies thing is such a work.
Oh, big time. And it's a bad one. But the only fortunate thing is, and Simon, I hope you have your kids on college prepaid, the Florida college prepaid. Dude.
Best of luck. Best of luck, Ben and Dexter.
Do it. I'm telling you, do it because we put Tyler on that when he was 2 weeks old, and I pay a monthly fee ever since then, but I don't pay anything right now. I pay for his room and board. Everything else is covered. And
talk to me after the show, please.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, the only thing I pay for Ty is his apartment. Everything else is and books. But there's different packages. Again, off air, but there's different packages you get that would cover room and board and books. And I just did straight credit. So basically all his credits. And he actually dropped a class and he's like, yeah, I'm going to retake it. I go, just remember, you only have X amount of credits. That's all I'm paying for. Once those credits are out, you're on your own, kid. So I'm use those credits wisely because I ain't paying extra. I've already paid. I'm done.
Well, speaking of things that are ridiculous, one of the things I wanted to talk about that I mentioned last episode on the show was Ronda Rousey. Have you guys kept up with her at all? Did you keep up with her while she was in the business? Have you seen the ridiculousness that has transpired since she left WWE?
So I watched her when she was there because she did this. I think she's one of the hottest things out there. I think she's super hot. I think she's super attractive. She did a talk show years ago. This was before she was in WWE. And I don't remember which talk show she was on, but basically the talk show host said to her, when guys are getting ready to fight, they abstain from sex. They're like, what do women do? What do you do? And this literally took her from like an 8 to like a 15 on a scale of being hot. She looked at him and she goes, I sit back and say, pump me full of all of it. Give it all to me. I want all of it. So I was like, pump me full of all the testosterone. And I was just like, can I get in line for that?
God. So yeah, I haven't followed anything. I've heard bits and pieces about how she's disgruntled with, I guess, her treatment there and stuff like that. But that's all I've heard. I'm not really into it.
The big takeaway is now after she's not binded to the business or WWE, I should say, she's gone on and said all these terrible things that happened and this guy was evil and that guy was bad. But one of the biggest issues, she accused Drew Gulak, who is a WWE superstar, was helping train at the PC, that during a backstage encounter, he supposedly grabbed or touched or brushed up against the tassels on her sweatpants. The tassels on her sweatpants. He didn't pull her pants down. He didn't grab a part of her anatomy. She demonized this guy for brushing up again or making contact with just the tassels on her shorts, her sweatpants. And if I'm not mistaken, I've seen reports, but then I saw a conflicting thing. They fired him. They fired him over these accusations.
So, wow. My thing with her is she's a badass. She's one of the baddest freaking women in the world. I mean, just from what she's done with UFC stuff. If someone touches her in a way that she doesn't like, she's going to tie that motherfucker up and beat his ass. I mean, like,
that's what I was thinking.
And I don't know. That would be my take on that. Like, if she feels something's being done inappropriately with the way she is and the way she's a fighter and things, like, you think she would have turned around and like knock the guy out.
See, and that's a hell of a point, Chaz, because that's what I was thinking. Like, well, how convenient that now that you're gone, now all of these terrible things happen where you can take care of yourself. You know, Ronda Rousey would snap me in half, and I would probably let her. But now all of a sudden, this poor guy who was minding his own business off training people is, you know, part of the hashtag Me Too movement because he touched the straps on your shorts.
Right.
When I don't know, it's just a lot of people are coming down on her now because now it's diarrhea of the mouth with all of her complaints about the business and complaining about, you know, Bruce Pritchard and complaining about, you know, I saw this happen and the culture in WWE. But one of the people she mentions is Vince McMahon. And you guys had direct ties to Vince McMahon. You guys worked for Vince in, you know, the most successful era, the Attitude Era. And we haven't chatted on camera or off camera about you guys' thoughts. And I've gotten messages from people saying, hey, ask Chaz and Glenn their thoughts on Vince. It's a hard subject. It's a tough topic, but.
So it's not really, I mean, it's touchy. I'll go first because I'll be fast. So I've known Vince probably, you know, since 1991. So I've known him, you know, a long time. And never once, he's always been very personable with me, at least. And this is my experience, nobody else's. This is just my take of the relationship that I had with Vince. When I went up there to do jobs, he was very approachable. He would, you know, come over, thank us for coming, stuff like that. So then when we finally did make it, you know, we used to go up to the office because we lived in South Jersey. We used to drive up to Stamford, Connecticut, and we used to go through that office like we owned it. We would go into his office. He wasn't in there. We would go in, rearrange his desk, and do all kinds of funny stuff and everything else. You know, we even went one time and USA Network sent him a bouquet of flowers, and we crossed out USA and put "Love the Headbangers." And we just did all kinds of stuff, and he rolled with it. You know, it was funny because there was a time that we were driving down an interstate, and here comes, you know, the Cadillac with Vince, Briscoe, Patterson, and everything else. And Vince is driving, and he's like this. But he has the one eye open, so you think he's sleeping, and he really wasn't. But, you know, Vin, I don't know if he was different back then. I can't speak on the now. I can only speak on, you know, what happened then. I've never seen him be inappropriate with anybody. I've never seen him, not saying it didn't happen. I've never seen him anything but, you know, professional and, he had a very weird sense of humor. He liked to joke with the boys just as much as anybody else. He, you know, wanted to be included with the boys and everything. So, that's why when this whole thing happened, it struck me as so like, oh my God, you know, Bruce, you know, was always with us. You know, we've known Bruce for years. You know, John Laurinaitis, he kind of came after we left and stuff like that. I really didn't have any kind of dealings that much with John Laurinaitis at all. So yeah, so I mean, just hearing it and stuff like that, I just want to see how it plays out. I mean, is there any, not saying that it didn't happen, not saying anything like that, but Simon, you know, I'm going to start telling everybody that one time in the locker room you touched me.
Yeah.
What do we have but my word versus yours to prove any of that?
No, hearsay.
It's just such a weird time. I mean, and as a guy, whenever you're like now, when I conduct any kind of, you know, stuff at work and it has the female involved, I always make sure there's a male there with me. I never do anything alone or by myself or anything like that.
No, with the work thing, if I got to do something with a female, I make sure another female's there. No, I have another female there. So there's not the male thing, because then you have two males ganging up on a female. I have another female there with me.
So, and if you think about it, back then, Vince always had his group of guys. He always had Patterson. He always had Briscoe. He always had, you know, Tony Gurria, and he always had those guys with him. So I mean, I don't know, man. I don't know. As much I don't want it to be true because Vince did a lot for us.
Yeah.
Taking two kids from South Jersey and putting them on the platform that we were on and stuff like that. It was just I don't want it to be true. Because I mean, actually, Vince is the only wrestling federation that we ever worked for. We never worked for WCW. We never we worked for ECW once or twice. We never worked for AEW. We never worked for anybody but the WWE. So, I mean, that's kind of mine. I'm just curious to see what happens. And then I hear he may open up his own federation again. You heard that, right?
I heard that.
That would be crazy. Because I can't see this being the end and what you think of Vince McMahon. Because like when you think, I'm going to say, the name, when you think of Chris Benoit, you think of what happened. His last act, whether it was, we'll never know what really happened. None of us. We can all speculate as much as we want, but we never know what really happened. So, but the last thing that we know about Chris is what happened. And it doesn't take away from anything that he did in the ring and what kind of performer he was and worker he was and everything else. But sadly, that's how we remember him now.
Yeah.
And I don't think Vince wants that to go. I don't think Vince wants that to be his legacy.
But Chaz, before we because the Benoit thing is a good point. What is your stance on it, Chaz?
My stance is the same. Like, I never saw anything. I know they killed off the beaver cleavage thing because supposedly there was some kind of Sable brought up some kind of sexual harassment thing. I don't know if that was against Vince, but at the same time, it was hard to believe that there was any sexual harassment with Sable at all, because I kid you not, she would leave her dressing room door open and be walking around naked, back and forth, back and forth. So yeah, the boys would sit there. Who wouldn't? Because one day her boobs were this big, the next day they were this big, then they were down again, then they were. So we all joked around that she had like boob pumps, and she was pumping them up like Air Jordans with the pump. So I never saw anything. Like Glenn said, we'd go up to Stamford, up to Connecticut. There was one time we literally rearranged his office up there because Beth, his secretary, would let us in, because Glenn and I went up there so many times. We had our own HID cards to get in. We could go up there whenever we wanted. They gave us our own key cards to get in the office up there.
That's awesome.
So we would go up and we'd go into the gimmick things to take merchandise we want. But yeah, we went in there, and one time we were sitting in Vince's office. I was actually behind his desk, and because we were rearranging, and Vince came walking in the office, and we were like, "Oh shit, we're in trouble." He sat down on the other side of his desk and sat there and was like, "Hey, this is fun. Like, you guys having a good time, blah, blah, blah." The only thing I can say, and I was a little salty about it after the fact.
This was a plate from the cafeteria that we stole.
The only thing I was a little salty about was when, like, my contract was expiring and they were like, "We don't know what to do with you." I tried reaching out to Vince and he wouldn't take my call. And at first I was salty about it. I was like, what the fuck is this? Like, we had this relationship, we had this rapport, and you can't even take my call now. But years later now, looking back, I understand Vince was all business. If you were making 100%. Him money, he would sit there, he would talk to you all day long. You could do whatever you want. We were making Vince money. That's why he allowed us to go in and rearrange his office and not give us any heat about it and play along. We were making him money. Once he realized you were leaving or you weren't making him any more money, he's not going to talk to you anymore. He was done with you. He was business. There was nothing personal about it. So literally when he would go on TV and say whatever's good for business, that's 100% a shoot line from him. Because like when we got the WWF tag titles, I'll never forget it. The next night we were getting ready to go out. Vince was sitting in the makeup chair, and Glenn and I walked up to him and thanked him. We're like, "Thank you so much. Like, this is a huge thing for us to be, for you to look at us this way and give us, the belts." He looked at us. He goes, "No." He goes, "You boys have earned it." He goes, "You've earned to carry these titles." He goes, enjoy it because in 30 days you're losing them. We were like, fuck. But still, it just like we had a great relationship with him. So again, behind the scenes, I don't know what happened. I'm not saying nothing happened. I'm not saying yes or no. I'm just saying I didn't see anything. I know of nothing other than just the interaction I had with him. And the only thing I'm going to say about him, and it's not even bad, Vince was business all the time. There's a story I saw it a couple weeks ago. The Undertaker was telling the story about, I don't know, they were sleeping somewhere, and Mark Henry had brought a blow up air mattress, and he was laying on the plane. Floor. And
it was on the plane.
And Vince, like it was dark. Vince got on his hands and knees and was crawling over, and he had a fork, and literally was poking holes in Mark Henry's air mattress on the plane. So it slowly would deflate, and then he went back, and Mark Henry got up. We lost him again. Hold on.
Geez. There it
and
is.
He's back.
We're back.
All right. So Vince walked over and was poking holes in the air mattress, and obviously, and Mark Henry got up. He's like, "What the fuck? Like, who did this?" And Vince was the first one to stand up and go, "You know what, Mark? That's fucked up. We got to look into this. We got to find out who did this too, and that person's going to pay." So, like Glenn said, he was one of the boys. Like he was a River. So, any kind of allegations, I just don't know.
Yeah, it's wild. I've gone out of my way not to give my opinion on stuff. Obviously, I can't opine on Vince because I've never met him, but there's a lot of holes in the whole situation. There's text messages that contradict stuff that she's saying. There's stuff, text messages that paint Vince in a really bad light. But at the end of the day, we don't know. And Glenn touched on the Benoit thing. We don't know. The fact that there is a hardcore group of people that if you even mention Chris Benoit's name, just mention it. Hey, I just watched Benoit versus Kurt Angle. Immediately, you get jumped on. Oh, I can't believe you
100%.
condone what he did. I can't believe that you're still watching his stuff. Like, I don't agree with the mentality that he needs to be erased from WWE history. Same with Vince. Like, how do you erase Austin versus McMahon?
I mean, just how do you erase the man who created the business that it is today? If it wasn't for him, this business wouldn't be what it is.
I'm not saying
that's a fact.
Yeah, I'm not saying pending on what the verdict is that don't celebrate someone that has done wrong, but ignoring it is literally that. It's ignorant to try to pretend that they didn't exist. I don't know. It's just crazy. It's wild. Did you guys have a lot of encounters with Chris Benoit?
I didn't. I did. I mean, I remember meeting him on like Independence, but when he came from WCW over to WWE with us, we didn't work him at all. So it was, I mean, just locker room banter or hey, how you doing? So there wasn't a lot. It's not like we hung out or anything.
No, I heard he wasn't a big ribber. I've talked to guys that were in ECW with him, but I know for a fact that you guys were big ribbers. And we just talked about you guys messing with Vince. Now, I know that there's some stories we can't tell on the show here because there's statutes of limitation. But
most of them we can't tell.
Yes. It's something involving masks in a hotel room. And anyway, who was the biggest ribber in your time? Was it Owen?
Oh, yeah. 100%. Owen and Davey Boy. All the time. Boy.
The two of them together. The two of them together were.
You guys got any good rib stories from them?
So there was one thing that we used to do all the time, and we used to get in trouble for it and everything else. So we would take the hotel trash can, and we would fill it about halfway up with water, and then we would go to the door of the person, whoever we found out, and just lean it up against the door, knock on the door, and then run. They would open the door because all hotel doors open inside the room. So that trash can would spill and go inside the room. 9 times out of 10, when you're in a hotel room, you're either wearing no socks or you're wearing socks when you sleep. So if they wore socks, it was just terrible. We did it one night, I want to say to Ken Shamrock probably 3 times. On the third time, we got chased down and scared the living shit out of us. And I don't think we did it ever again after that. It was hilarious.
That's amazing.
So I don't know if we shared this story before or not. If I did, Simon, you can cut us off. But Owen came up when we had our part-time contracts. The office paid for our car rental and it paid for our hotel. The full-time guys, they were on their own for the car rental and the hotel. But under our part-time deals, the office paid for it. So Owen came up to us one night and he says, "Hey," he goes, "are you guys driving to the next town tonight?" And we said, "Yeah." He goes, "Well, I need a ride." He goes, "My ride left. Can I ride with you guys?" We're like, "Yeah, of course." So we get to the town. We're like, "Oh, and where's your hotel?" He's like, "Well, I don't have a hotel either." And we're like, "Oh." So he goes, "I think all the hotels are sold out." He goes, "Can I just crash on your floor?" And we're like, "Well, okay, yeah, sure. You're fucking Owen Hart. Who's going to tell you no?" So Owen comes in and he's like, "Hey, so don't just give me a blanket and a pillow and I'll sleep on the floor." And Glenn and I were like, "You're not sleeping on the floor. Like you can have one of the beds and one of us will take the bed and the other one will sleep in the chair." Like that's just so anyway, that's how we slept. So we get up the next day. Owen was tag champ and European champion at the same time.
And he had the slammies.
So he gets up the next morning and he's going through all his stuff and he says, "All right, I'm going to go take a shower." I'm like, okay. Owen goes into the shower. The shower's running. We can hear. So we get up and we walk over and we're looking at his belt like this. So then we grab the tag belt and then we're jumping up and down on the bed with the tag belt like this as if we're tag team champions. And then the water shuts off. So we run back over. We take the belt. We put it down on the dresser. Owen comes out and we're like this.
Like little kids.
Yes.
Yes.
So he's walking out. He's still dripping wet. He just got a towel around his waist. And he walks by the stuff and he stops. He looks down. He looks over at us. He goes, "You touched my belt, didn't you?" We're like, "Yeah." He goes, "I kind of figured you would. That's why I left it out."
That's amazing, dude.
Yeah. Yes.
It's almost like Step Brothers. Did you touch my drum set? Did you touch my drum set? No, yeah, we touched it. I didn't rub my balls on the belt, but we were jumping up and down on the bed with it.
Yeah.
Now, what's the worst rib someone has pulled on you guys?
The worst rib? Brian Christopher tried.
The only one really ribbed that I would even consider that nobody really ribbed us when we first started with WWE at the time, and Owen took a padlock and locked our bags together. It was Owen, right? That did that?
Totally, yeah. But Brian Christopher did that to us when we first went to Memphis for USWA. Same thing. Yeah. He took a padlock. And at this point, we just had like duffel bags, like gym bags. We didn't have the rolling suitcases. So he took a padlock and padlocked our bags together. So we saw it and we were like, okay, we just picked them up and we walked out. We came back the next night, padlock was still on it. We lived together, we traveled together, and then all of a sudden one day the padlock was gone. We didn't put it over at all. We just carried our shit in and we didn't put it over. Yeah, we didn't really get ribbed at all.
Yeah, you guys are hard to rib. As someone that has been ribbed relentlessly by you guys, it's hard to pull one over on you.
So
I'm bad at ribbing to begin with. We had a show in South Florida back in 2012, and I bought itching powder to fuck with Frankie. So I told Pete Cannon, "Hey, keep an eye out." Frankie had run to his car to grab something from his glove compartment. So I'm like hovered over his bag. And I'm putting the itching powder in, and out of nowhere, Pete starts screaming, "He's here, he's here, he's here, he's here." And like a dipshit, I fumble it. Like I grab the fucking itching powder. I fumble it all the way over to my bag and drop it into my bag. So there's a match on YouTube of me and Frankie against, I think it's the Bendejos or Beast Mode, where we're both like patting each other down while whoever's not in the ring is just on the apron, just like scratching like idiots.
That's funny. All right, let me tell one more rib story, and then we got to get back to a couple things that we got to focus on because we're hitting that 40-minute mark.
Yeah.
So we were in Arkansas with Burt Prentice with Ozark Mountain Wrestling. He brings in this 7'2" guy, And at this point, we had a house that was being rented for us. That's a different story. We had a house with an extra bedroom. So Bert knew this. So Bert says, "Hey, can we let the Giant crash in your room?" We're like, "Sure, Bert, no problem." So this guy's sleeping on the floor in a sleeping bag. So the first rib on this guy was
It came like up to here.
Yeah. the first rib on this guy was taking a towel, putting it over the toilet, pooping into the towel, folding it up, and jamming it into the foot of his sleeping bag.
Oh.
Glenn, am I lying? Days went by before
Nothing.
This thing was discovered.
Nothing.
So.
Did it not stink?
Oh, it stunk in there. I just don't know what he did, but he left it in there for days, or he just wasn't putting it over. So.
And he was too dumb to know that.
At that point, now I'm ribbing him, going, "Dude, you need to sit down and let me shave your eyebrows." And he goes, "What do you mean shave my eyebrows?" So I go, "Initiation to the business, you get your eyebrows shaved." I go, "Eventually it's going to happen." I said, "Whether you allow me to do it or not." He goes, "What do you mean if not? I'm not allowing you to do it." I said, "Well, here's what's going to happen." So this was like day, I don't know, 4 or 5 of me telling him, you're going to get your eyebrows shaved. You should just let me do it.
Every day we would say shit to him.
I said to him, "Listen," I said, "I'm going to gimmick your drink." I go, I'm going to take a bunch of somas or something. I'm going to drop them in your drink. You're going to pass out. I said, "I've done it before, but I've never done it to a guy who was 7 feet tall and 400 pounds. I said, so I may give you too much. I go, I may kill you. I don't know. I said, but this is going to happen. So you have a choice. Sit down and let me shave your eyebrows, or take a chance of me putting too much shit in the cup and you dying." He goes, "Fine." He sits down on the toilet in the bathroom. He sits on the toilet, and I take the clippers and I go, Bzzz. I go, "Okay, you're done." He goes, "You only did one eyebrow." I go, "I know. Now here's the rib. Do you shave the other one, or you wait for it to grow back?" So he leaves it alone. He leaves it alone. He has one eyebrow. So we walk into the building. Bert comes running into the locker room. He's screaming. He's like, "You fucking," this is when we were the Spiders. "Fucking spiders." He goes, "What the fuck?" And we're like, "What, Bert? What's wrong? What did we do?" He goes, "I have a giant with one fucking eyebrow. What am I supposed to do with him?" And I go, "I don't know. Your choice. Shave the other one off or wait for it to grow back in."
That's
so what
amazing.
did he do? He shaved the other one off.
Yeah.
So now Bert had a 7'2" monster that looked like a big giant thumb.
He had no eyebrows.
Yeah.
That's fantastic, dude. Give them Sophie's choice. Do you shave the other one or do you let it grow back?
That's how it works.
Never know.
Hey, let's switch gears. King of the Ring. Gunther beat Jey Uso last night. So now it's Gunther versus the winner of Tama Tonga or Randy Orton. I still say it's Gunther. Gunther's going over.
Well, you guys both said you gave me who you thought was going to win and who you wanted to win.
Well, I thought it was good. I had a feeling it was going to be Uso, but at the same time, I said Gunther could have the biggest chance too because the storyline there is Gunther. But Tonga being new could be different. Randy Orton gets nothing out of it unless he just wants to be king of the ring. But that storyline goes nowhere.
Nowhere.
With Randy Orton win. I still say it's Gunther.
So even now, with how they're trying to push the bloodline thing, you guys still think, because I want it to be Gunther, but you posed the best argument. Tama Tonga's new, and he's got the bloodline.
He's new. He's in the bloodline.
I think that elevates him.
It does.
100%.
It does. I don't know. I just think. I mean, unless he comes into the bloodline, and if Roman Reigns comes back, and this guy Tonga's like, "I'm the king. You're head of table. I'm king. Who's higher, king or head of the table?" And I know they're kind of splitting that, or at least the storyline. The story is they're splitting bloodline into 2 separate groups, possibly. Yeah. So I don't know how that plays out, but I mean that could, grow that storyline more. I mean, is Tonga with what's his name, the guy with the thumb?
Solo Sikoa.
Are they on the same thing? Like, does that cause friction there, or do they let Gunther take it on Raw, and Gunther turns into like a Steven Regal kind of William Regal sort of thing?
See, I think Tonga has the benefit of the bloodline story. So whether he wins or loses, he's got that to fall back on. Gunther just lost the IC title. He needs something, and plus, I think they have a pay-per-view coming up in Germany.
Yeah, that's the.
Really?
Isn't that the King of the Ring and Queen pay-per-view? Is that there?
Is that there? Let me see.
Because I know the finals for that match is going to be on that pay-per-view.
Oh, see, I was thinking maybe they put it on them before that pay-per-view. No, it's called Bash in Berlin.
Oh.
Bash in Berlin. So I think they might put him and Cody together. That's August 31st, Chaz, is Bash in Berlin.
Yeah, well, speaking of, wait, are we done with the Gunther thing?
Yeah, just that was our hypothesis, right? You, what do you think, Glenn? You think it's going to be Tonga, or you think it's going to be Gunther?
I the same thing. It would re-elevate Gunther, and then it would also elevate Tonga. So, I mean, either which way, I mean, it's going to be.
Opinion? Stop flip-flopping here. Pick one.
I'll say Tonga.
All right.
Glenn, you are the most diplomatic. You are the most diplomatic sweetheart I've ever known.
It's either the most diplomatic sweetheart or just afraid to make a decision person
Yeah. There it is.
So speaking of Cody, you just brought Cody up.
Yep.
All of a sudden now Cody's in an angle against Logan Paul.
I think that match is going to be a hell of a match.
Listen, I think it could be good, and I think the storyline could be good. Are they going back to a Hogan versus Warrior, belt versus belt thing when Warrior was the IC champ and Hogan was the heavyweight champ?
Well, what they did is Logan said, no. The contract was only good for Cody's belt, not title, Logan's belt. Yeah.
He weaseled his way out of a title match.
Right. You can pretty much understand what's happening in that match.
Again, match-wise, yes, it'll be fun to watch. It'll be a good match. But storyline-wise, is this a long-term storyline, or is this just to have a match on a pay-per-view that's going to be a good match, and the match is going to be over, and Cody's going to win, Logan Paul's going to do his thing, Cody's going to do his thing? Are we trying to build a storyline? Because there's no – we talked about it last week. Since WrestleMania, there's been no, storyline for Cody to be involved with. It was like all of a sudden he won the belt and everything was done.
Yeah. And he got put in there with AJ because they wanted a good match. They didn't care about a good story. They cared about a 5-star match, but you can't butter your bread in the WWE climate right now just off of a good match.
That's what I'm saying. So where is this going? Is this a storyline, or is just a storyline for the pay-per-view and then what?
I can't
It'll
see
be
this
interesting
being
to see.
So again,
I'd like to see something long term.
It'll be interesting to see. You are the most unopinionated person on this podcast ever.
Do you see this having long-term potential, Glenn? Yes or no?
I could see it. Yeah. Between those two, I think they're going to have good. I think they're going to have good chemistry in the ring. I think Logan Paul has far exceeded everybody's expectations of what he was going to bring to the WWE, and I think he's phenomenal. I think he's great with his ring work. I love his mic work. He's exactly what we talked about last week. He has everything in there. He has people invested. People that don't watch wrestling are now watching wrestling because of Logan Paul. People that don't watch boxing are watching boxing because of his brother. Yeah. So I mean, it's crazy. They know 100% what they're doing. They are the media kings, both of those two. It's incredible. So I like it. I think it's going to draw a new audience to the brand.
Well, I want to address our audience because last week I posed the question backwards. I gave you guys the question and saved the answer for this week. The question was, name your one opponent or any opponent you've been in the ring with that was goosebump inducing, that gave you guys the chills, that filled your brain with the holy shit, I can't believe I'm about to wrestle this person. Chaz and Glenn, I'm going to let you guys give your answers, but you also individually texted me what you guessed the other one's answers were going to be, and I want to see how on the nose it was.
Well, okay, go ahead.
All right, so you want my answers first or my answers for Glenn first?
No. You're going to give what your answer is, and then I'm going to tell you what Glenn guessed. And then Glenn gives his answers, and I'm going to tell him what you guessed for him.
So my guess is I have 2 matches. One, Manhattan Center against the Legion of Doom on their return right before WrestleMania. That was one. And there's a whole, and we can get it and write this down, Simon. Let's talk about that next week. About that on their return. So that's one. And the second one was an ISPW show for Tommy Fierro, and we got in the ring with Demolition. Or not Demolition, Powers of Pain.
So Glenn's guesses for you were LOD return at the Manhattan Center and the Powers of Pain.
Powers of Pain. And I have it on video standing there going, and so we can talk about both of those stories next week. But literally in the video I have, you see me in the middle of the ring, hold my arm up like this, and I'm covered in goosebumps. And I'm looking down, I'm covered in goosebumps. And they're literally ready to, Barbarian's in the ring with me, and I'm like, dude, I got goosebumps all over me right now.
See, I hate it because I want to ask you about it now, but Glenn.
No, we don't have time. We'll dive into those. Those will be longer stories to tell, especially the LOD.
Yeah.
Glenn, your answers was a singles match and a tag team.
Yep. So my tag team one will mirror Chaz's. It's LOD on their return match. And my single one is Ric Flair.
Oh, my God. I nailed both of them.
Yes.
That is amazing.
And I wrestled Flair twice. Jazz
literally said LOD Ric Flair.
No, don't tell the story, Glenn. You can tell the Flair story next week. Don't do it now.
Okay.
Flair story.
Because I got a good Flair story.
Yeah.
A great Flair story.
So Powers of Pain, LOD, and Flair stories will all come next week.
Next week.
But for this week, we're going to give the answer to the question I asked you off air. We went back to form, and I asked you guys to give me a certain person that should be a certain place, and we're going to fill that question out. But your answer, okay. So Chaz says Demolition. Glenn?
That's my answer.
I already sent it to you. I texted it to you, Simon.
No, you give the answer now, and we do the question next week.
Oh, okay. Gold Dust.
Ooh.
That's a good pick.
That's a really good pick.
Gold Dust, Dustin Rhodes, any one of his personas. Yeah.
No, that's awesome. See, my pick up until last year was Andy Kaufman, and I got it.
What?
That's how I discovered wrestling. I didn't learn to speak English till I was 8 years old, watching Taxi, Nick at Night, and Andy Kaufman was on Taxi. Then I found out he was a wrestler. I was born in South America.
Okay, this is next week conversation.
Okay, well, yes. Guys, we're getting to go
hold
home.
on. No, before we go, I asked both of you to watch a movie. Did either one of you watch the movie?
Yes.
Okay. And
I downloaded it, but I didn't watch it yet.
What a tearjerker.
Yes, I know.
But Mick Foley's amazing in it. Jake the Snake is amazing in it.
Jake is awesome in it.
Yeah.
and that's so Jake's persona is so Jake.
It was authentic. I felt like he wasn't acting.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, but we won't give too many spoilers. Glenn, you got to watch it. Peanut Butter Falcon. Listen.
Yes.
Hold on.
I have it.
Hold on. Glenn, are you ready?
Yeah.
Oh.
So my pet peeve this week is when you have your toothpaste and you have that flip up cap and then you flip it back and there's still toothpaste in it. I can't stand that. Just unscrew the damn top and use it the old fashioned way. Toothpaste.
When did you start using toothpaste?
Yesterday.
So let me piggyback off of Glenn's pet peeve from last week of social awareness. I was in Walmart the other day, and I'm walking down the main aisle, and you have the other aisles that come this way, that come out. This fucking troll, she comes out with her cart, doesn't even stop and look, and I see it, and I'm like right here. So I literally took my cart and went, bam, smashed it right into her. It went into the thing, it knocked the thing over, and she looks at me, she goes, well, that was rude. And I'm like, why don't you be a little bit more aware of your surroundings, lady? And I just kept
There you go.
Yeah.
We cannot take these guys anywhere and stuff like that. Guys, thank you for listening to episode 9 of the Headbangers Variety Show. Tune in next week when we discuss the guys' essential dream matches, the matches their opponents that gave them goosebumps. If you are a video game fan, WWE 2K24 will be invaded by Mosh and Thrasher on June 26th. Get on your favorite console and download the most underrated but tremendous tag team of all time. My name is Simon Says. For Mosh, for Thrasher, for Chance, for Glenn, this has been the Headbangers Variety Hour. Check them out on Hot Topic, on WWE Shop. Check them out on their own personal Pro Wrestling Tees page. And stay tuned because we are about to launch a social media page for the show where you can submit your questions to us, for Chaz, for Glenn. Until next time, see you later, alligators.
We are tremendous! Tremendous!
We're still recording.